Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about the game Trailblazers and my favorite mechanisms in this game. I played Trailblazers with one other player, so a total of two players last week, and had a really fun time with it. It's a tile placement game where the tiles are cards. Here's an image of what the game looks like on the table. This is in our game. This is a photo from Board Game Geek. And you have the choice to place a tile anywhere adjacent to another tile that you have, or overlapping a tile that you have. And I'll come back to that overlapping element in a minute. Before I get there, actually, I want to mention first, I thought that the theme of the game was very charming. You're basically just creating trails, either a river, a hiking trail, or I believe a bike trail. And it was just a very pleasant, comforting, cozy theme. It reminded me a little bit, even though the gameplay is very different, to my favorite digital game from last year, or at least new to me last year, A Short Hike. Felt like that in a tile placement form. But one of the key hooks about this game, I'll come back to these animals in a second, but let's see, we can kind of see it there. Yeah, this is a better vision of it. Are these oddly sized cards? This game was a great reminder to me that cards can be whatever size you want. Some gamers might bemoan that they don't fit into card sleeves, but that's okay. These cards seem actually pretty durable, so I don't think you need to sleeve these cards. But these are essentially half of a normal card size, and it makes them a little odd to shuffle, but not actually all that difficult. But it opens up possibilities and table space opportunities, I think, that you wouldn't have in a game that plays up to, I believe, 8 players if you had full-size cards. And so I really like these oblong, rectangular, oddly shaped cards. They worked really, really well for the game. And again, they were a reminder to me that cards can be any size you want. Tiles can be any shape you want. And it leads to a really nice puzzle of connecting these paths back to different areas of the board. Also, I mentioned that you can overlap the cards, and let's flip back to these. Well, actually, we'll stay on this image because this shows it a little bit. There's 2 elements of overlapping that you can consider in the game, and I really like this choice. One is when you place one of these cards, you can just place it on the table like this one right here, or you can place it overlapping another card like this one right here. So this player's wasn't interested in like this loop continuing, this trail loop, but they were interested in continuing this nice loop of a river right here. So they placed this card on top of this card to continue that loop. Gives you a lot of flexibility late in the game. I wouldn't say you're necessarily doing it all that much early in the game, but late in the game where you've maybe completed some goals or you are focusing more on a loop that you weren't thinking about as much before, overlapping is a really nice option to have. The other element, though, tied to this is whenever you place a card, at the moment you place it, if there's an animal on that card, you can take an animal meeple and place it exactly where that animal shows up on the card. You can see right here, there's a bison right here on top of this bison, a bison meeple on top of the bison icon. This gives you some added points at the end of the game if you, depending on that trail and depending on the different types of animals on that trail. I believe with this trail, you want different animals, not the same animal, because people want to see different animals when they go on a hike. So I think the second animal here wouldn't score, but I could be wrong about that. But however, when you place that animal meeple, it is there for the rest of the game, meaning that you cannot overlap on top of that meeple, on top of that card. In fact, I believe because the animals are right in the middle of the card, you can't overlap with that card at all. So you are locking in that card for the rest of the game, potentially for some great points. Potentially, you don't even need to overlap it, but if the situation arises where you wish you could overlap it, you cannot do that. So it's an interesting choice at that moment where you're having to plan ahead and think ahead a little bit about what you might need from that card in the future. Do you place the animal now or do you leave it flexible for the future? So I really like that choice for overlapping tied to the animal meeples, as well as the oddly shaped cards in this game in Trailblazers. Let me know your thoughts if you've played the game or if you can think of other games. There are definitely other games like Hokkaido where you're overlapping cards. But when you're tied to this element of actually putting meeples on the cards as well, if you can think of another game that does that, let me know about that in the comments as well. Thanks.